I never thought I'd be telling a story like this, but here we are. I've lived in Willow Creek Estates for the past 6 years, and life was mostly calm, until Linda Harper, who some neighbors secretly called Patty, was elected as the HOA president about 8 months ago. From the very beginning, it was clear her mission wasn't to improve the community, it was to enforce her idea of perfection on every lawn, house, and resident. My name is David Reynolds. I've been a county surveyor for more than 15 years. It's not the kind of thing you chat about at block parties, so most of my neighbors, including Linda, only knew me as the quiet guy in the greenhouse at the end of Oak Lane. My work requires extreme precision, legal documentation, and a deep understanding of property lines, skills that, as it turned out, would be surprisingly useful when dealing with our HOA president. The problem started when Linda decided that all house numbers in the neighborhood had to be standardized, for emergency purposes, according to a note slipped under everyone's door. She insisted that all numbers be black, 5 inches tall, and in a font called Montserrat, the only acceptable font in her opinion for the refined HOA community. I thought that was odd. County Emergency Services actually recommends contrasting colors and numbers between 4 and 6 inches for maximum visibility, not a specific font. But I figured this wasn't a battle worth fighting, so I ordered the new numbers. 2 weeks after installing them exactly as specified, I received a violation notice. According to Linda, my house numbers were incorrectly placed and needed to be moved 3 inches to the right for alignment with the rest of the street. I checked the HOA bylaws and found absolutely nothing about precise placement, just that numbers should be clearly visible from the street. I decided to call her. "Hi Linda, this is David Reynolds from 3921 Oak Lane. I received a violation notice about my house numbers, but I can't find anything in the bylaws about exact placement." Her voice was saccharine, but I could hear the condescension. "David, as HOA president, it's my duty to maintain community standards. The board decided visual alignment is essential. You have 14 days to comply, or you'll face a $50 fine." I asked where this requirement was documented. She said it had been discussed at the last board meeting, which I hadn't attended, and that the minutes would be posted on the community website within 30 days. Still, the violation stood. As a surveyor, precision is everything to me. Linda's arbitrary demands clashed with my principles, but I also knew fighting the HOA would be long and frustrating. After thinking it over, I decided not to move my house numbers 3 meaningless inches. They were clearly visible and followed the county's emergency guidelines. I wrote a polite but firm email explaining my stance, citing the bylaws and official guidelines. She didn't respond. 15 days after the initial violation notice, I received a $50 fine for not complying with her directives. I filed a formal appeal and requested a hearing with the HOA board. But when I returned from a 3-day work trip inspecting a new county development, I found my house numbers had been changed. They had been moved to the right as Linda demanded, and replaced with a new decorative style I had never approved. I was furious. Someone had entered my property without permission and altered it. I checked my doorbell camera. There was Linda herself, with the HOA's architectural compliance officer, a retired dentist named Greg, removing my numbers and installing the new ones. Instead of confronting them immediately, I decided to be strategic. I documented everything, photos, video footage, timestamps, to have proof of the unauthorized changes. This wasn't just an HOA disagreement anymore. This was trespassing, and I was ready to take action. I started by downloading and saving all the security footage and printing copies of every previous correspondence, including my appeal that had apparently been ignored. Then I did something I probably should have done from the start. I pulled the official county property records for the entire neighborhood. As a county surveyor, I had access to these records for work purposes. What I found was shocking. According to official documents, the decorative house number plaques that Linda was now enforcing weren't just cosmetic, they actually shifted the official reference points for property lines by nearly 4 inches in many cases. In a suburban neighborhood where property disputes can hinge on mere inches, this was a serious issue. The next day was the monthly HOA meeting. I hadn't planned to attend. These meetings usually involved Linda lecturing about people's lawns while everyone else scrolled on their phones. But now I had a purpose. I gathered all my documents, put on my county surveyor badge, and headed to the community center. Linda was mid-presentation, pointing at a PowerPoint slide of a sad-looking hedge that belonged to the Martins on Pine Street. She froze when she saw me, her eyes flicking briefly to my badge before she composed herself. "David, how nice of you to join us. We're discussing landscape compliance, but individual violations can be addressed at the end," she said. I smiled politely. "Actually, Linda, I'm here in my official capacity as a county surveyor for Jefferson County." I let that sink in, watching as confusion, recognition, and concern crossed her face. "I need to address an urgent matter regarding property boundaries and unauthorized modifications that could have legal implications for the HOA." The room, which had been buzzing quietly, went silent. Linda tried to maintain her composure. "That's not on today's agenda, David. Individual concerns." "This isn't an individual concern," I interrupted calmly but firmly. "This is a county issue. Unauthorized modifications to property markers, including house numbers that serve as official reference points, violate Jefferson County Code 5.3.7. Greg, the architectural compliance officer, cleared his throat nervously. "Maybe we should hear him out, Linda." I walked to the front, connected my laptop to the projector, and displayed the county property record side by side with photos of the original numbers and the ones Linda had installed while I was away on official business. My house numbers had been removed and replaced without my consent. The video from my doorbell camera showed Linda and Greg making the changes. Murmurs spread across the room. "What looks like a simple aesthetic change is actually a modification of property markers that shifts official survey points by about 4 inches, I explained. I clicked to the next slide. "Modifying property markers without permits and without a licensed surveyor is a violation of county code, carrying a minimum $500 fine per instance." Linda's face turned from pink to pale to a mottled red. "This is absurd. They're just house numbers. The HOA has full authority over exterior aesthetics." "Aesthetics, yes. Property markers, no," I replied. "And I've found 15 similar unauthorized changes throughout Willow Creek Estates in the past month. That's potentially $7,500 in county fines, not including surveyor costs." The room erupted in concerned chatter. Someone shouted, "I can't afford a $500 fine because Linda wanted my house numbers to look prettier." Linda slammed her hand on the table. "This is intimidation. The HOA Treasury will not pay any county fines." Janet, a board member who had been Linda's supporter, raised her hand. "Actually, according to our bylaws, any fines resulting from board members' actions are the personal responsibility of those members. Not the HOA Treasury." The room went silent as everyone stared at Linda, whose face now cycled through colors like a traffic light. Janet continued, gaining confidence, "I move that we immediately revoke the house number standardization rule and authorize emergency funds to restore all modified numbers to their original state to avoid further county penalties." "I second that motion," another board member said. One by one, others followed. Linda and Greg were left isolated. The vote was unanimous. As the meeting adjourned, Linda cornered me, whispering furiously, "This isn't over, David. You had no right to ambush me like this." I smiled politely. "I'm just doing my job. County regulations exist for a reason. And you'll be receiving the official violation notice, $500, payable within 30 days. I tapped my badge lightly. "Also, interfering with a county official on duty is its own violation, with separate fines." The look on her face as she realized her petty power play would cost her personally was priceless. I walked away, satisfied, knowing my house numbers were finally secure, properly positioned and fully compliant.